welcome to the Dark Money Special Report episode of Redacted tonight. I'm Lee Camp, and by the end of this, I'll give you the answer to stopping the corrupting influence of money in politics, which is the root of basically all the other issues. But first, there's been a new gigantic leak. And this time it concerns the loads of dark money pouring into our election. And what's infuriating is you won't hear about this on CNN or NBC or ABC or Fox News, really any of them, because they're busy scratching his ass. And The Guardian has revealed leaked documents showing the extent of Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker's dark money web. The documents come from a 2012 lawsuit in which Walker was prosecuted for dodging campaign finance laws. But it was ultimately thrown out. The case was thrown out by a judge who had benefited from Walker's dark money web. They helped that judge keep his job, and then he not only threw out the case, he ordered the prosecutors to permanently destroy all copies of information and other materials obtained through the investigation. That's bananas. You can't. The judge was like, he's innocent. And also burn all the evidence showing he's guilty. You can't do that! But luckily, the documents have been leaked. So let's get into this. In 2011, Scott Walker passed an awful anti-union bill that said that unions have to... Whatever it was horrible. It was horrible. And it pissed off thousands of people enough that they occupied the Capitol building in Madison. So Scott Walker, this mangy dick here, Walker was forced into a recall election because the people of his state fucking hate him. The leaked emails show his main fundraiser told him to collect a lot of money from billionaires Sheldon Adelson and the Koch brothers and to get corporate cash in general. Just grab it all up. And a few months later, Adelson gave him $200,000. Adelson, like anyone, is forbidden from giving that much money to a candidate. It's illegal. However, thanks to Citizens United and other Supreme Court decisions, he can give that much money to a third-party group, a third-party entity. The third-party group is then legally not allowed to have any contact with the candidate and his campaign. In this case, that group is called Wisconsin Club for Growth. Wisconsin Club for Growth was known as a dark money organization, as it was the recipient of a secret flow of funds that the public knew nothing about. And Wisconsin Club for Growth was pivotal in scoring Scott Walker's success in that recall campaign. Pivotal. They dumped millions in advertising to help him, and unfortunately for their billboards, they weren't able to replace Walker's face with something less constipated weaselly. Anyway, all of this is legal as long as he and his campaign have no contact with them. But they did. They did have contact, and that's why this is a broken system. If only there were a genius, a modern-day prophet, a Nostradamus, who could reveal this reality to the country.
Before 2 months ago, I was a businessman. I give to everybody. When they call, I give. And you know what? When I need something from them, 2 years later, 3 years later, I call them. They are there for me. So and that's a broken system.
Okay, when I said genius, I need to rephrase it. Sometimes the guy at the party, like, who's not all there and he ate paint chips as a kid, like lead paint chips. So yeah, that's Donald Trump. Sometimes it takes an idiot to point out the truth. So Scott Walker ran around the country collecting millions from basically supervillains. People like Paul Singer, the notorious vulture capitalist who likes to make money by sucking funding for AIDS medication away from Africa. I'm not kidding. His company snatched up $40 million out of Zambia alone. He sucks AIDS medication out of poor countries in Africa. That's his job. That's on his business cards. And then he uses that money to buy his yachts and his Grundle tickler or whatever billionaires do. After meeting with Walker, Singer wrote a check for $250,000. And even Donald Trump was involved in this scam. After meeting with Walker, Trump wrote a check for $15,000 on the same day. Who was the beneficiary of Trump's generosity? Wisconsin Club for Growth. But some may say, well, okay, sure. After meeting with Walker, people give money to Wisconsin Club for erectile dysphoria or whatever. But I'm sure it was a coincidence. There's no proof they're giving money because of meetings with Scott Walker. Well, here's one email in which Scott Walker says, also, I got $1 million from John Menard today. That sounds kind of obvious. And here's a check for $10,000 to the Wisconsin Club. And the guy wrote on the check, because Scott Walker asked. Oh, come on! You're not even trying! These are the worst criminals ever. And Wisconsin Club for Growth cashed the check, too! Why not send it back and say, hey, asshole, we're trying to break campaign finance laws here. Could you not write because Scott Walker in the fucking check? Could you maybe send another one that says definitely not because Scott Walker? Who taught you to commit crime? Because they did a shitty job. The point is, current-day criminals suck. They do. This week it came out that Hillary Clinton's IT specialist, Paul Combetta, looking for advice, posted on Reddit 2 years ago, I need to strip out a VIP's very VIP email address from a bunch of archived email. Way to go, Lex Luthor. Dear Reddit, I'm trying to lie to the FBI. Any advice? The Guardian said, criminals used to be good, they did. The Guardian said that by the end of Scott Walker's recall election, $81 million had been spent by the Republicans, while the Democratic rival was only able to muster $22 million. Later this month, the Supreme Court will decide whether to weigh in on this matter, and it could have repercussions through the whole dark money world that allows the complete corruption of our elections. You want a little more evidence of how our government is bought and sold? The leaked documents that show that the owner of NL Industries, one of America's leading producers of lead used in paint until the ban, secretly donated $750,000 to Wisconsin Club for Growth at a time when Walker and his fellow Republican senators were fighting their recall elections. Also in that same time frame, Walker signed into law legal changes that attempted to grant effective immunity to lead manufacturers from any compensation claims for lead paint poisoning. Scott Walker passed a law that said poisoning victims can't sue the lead paint companies, right as the biggest lead paint company was donating $750,000 to Wisconsin Club, the organization that has nothing to do with Scott Walker except everything. So what did the courts do about it? Well, they feel there is no evidence that Wisconsin Republicans attempted to change the law as a favor in return for Simmons' $750,000 donation that had helped some of them win their elections and stay in office. No charges have ever been brought. Are you fucking kidding me? How much more proof do you need? What could possibly be the excuse for that? Oh, well, Scott Walker is, he's just the spawn of Satan. So it's not that he was getting paid for doing awful shit. He just likes doing awful shit. Some people are into ping pong. He's into awful shit. Even without the bribe, he would have passed a law saying lead poisoning victims can suck it. But then why did he do it at that moment? Well, he could have been doing other terrible things to fill his terrible stuff quota. He could have passed a bill that said vegans have to eat giant chunks of raw Ted Nugent, or a bill that mandated that kids with sun allergies have to move to Florida and a guy follows them around taking up all the good shady spots. Like, there's tons of awful stuff Scott Walker could have done, but he screwed over lead paint victims right as a check was sent from the lead paint companies to Wisconsin Hard Times for Hard-Ons Club. This is not just Scott Walker. A ridiculous number of our politicians are bought and sold. And it's how the corporations have taken over our cities, our states, our laws, our police, and so much more. According to the independent monitoring group, the Center for Responsive Politics, $2 billion of corporate cash has been lavished on the presidential race so far. Just this week, it came out that Donald Trump paid at least $45,000 to Alan Hevesi, a New York State comptroller who later went to prison for his role in pay-to-play bribery scandals. Hevesi also played a major role in granting Trump a settlement in a lawsuit that saved Trump almost $100 million in taxes. There's nothing more satisfying than when a bribe pays off. Feels good. It's like putting your toes in wet sand. It is. But I'm sure Trump denies paying for favors, which is illegal.
When they call, I give. And you know what? When I need something from them 2 years later, 3 years later, I call them. They are there for me.
Or not. So how do we stop this? Well, there's a variety of ways, some of which I've talked about before, like amendments to the Constitution or public financing. But then there's another one I came up with recently. What if there were a clean money candidate certification for politicians who aren't bought by corporate money? It would be a nonpartisan badge. Any candidate could get, any candidate, even a Republican, if you found one who wasn't taking corporate money. But that's like finding a suicidal butterfly. So with the help of an awesome all-volunteer team, we did it. We just launched an early version, cleanmoneycandidates.org. It exists. You can go there. You can sign up for free to be alerted as we continue to add clean money candidates to our list, and also as we out the politicians who are completely bought off. You can help us spread the word and follow us on Twitter at Clean Candidate. It's a work in progress. We're starting small, but I know what you're thinking. I will not support anything that is not loved by at least a couple of Hollywood's finest. All right? The celebrities are the ones who tell me what to think, good sir. Well, if you insist. If they're willing to say, I'm not taking corporate money or super PAC money, they get the certification. And then we'll get it to the point where not having the certification is like a scarlet letter that chases you around.
I love that idea. I think it's a fantastic idea.
And so it'd just be like a clean money badge that they get.
That's a great idea.
Thank you, I'm very smart.
Yeah, you are. You're pretty smart.
The point is, it's time we take our democracy back from the corporate totalitarian state. And clean money candidates is one step in that process. Soon, no one will dream of voting for a candidate who doesn't have the clean money certification. Or at least that's what I tell myself so I can sleep at night.